I'm Heather from HeaBookTubes, and today's diverse romance recommendations. This is a list. I'm really not going to be going in depth on synopsis or anything like that. I'm going to tell you a couple bullet points about the author and a couple bullet points about their general book style, and that's kind of where we're going to go. I wanted to do this because I've been reading diversely for a little over 2 years. So this has not been a lifetime thing for me. This is something that I started, and I'm always looking for more authors, and the main reason for that for me is that I just don't believe that the majority, like the huge majority of our media should be given to us by white, straight men, cis, woman, able-bodied, neurotypical, all of the things. Diversity is often a catch-all phrase that a lot of times people attribute to, well, that means the author isn't white, right? And of course that's one aspect, but where they're from, how their mind works, how society treats them, and the things that they have to deal with, all of that is factors, right? So you can have two cis-het white women and one has a visible disability or a chronic illness that is invisible, and there's a huge range and spectrum in any checkbox that you want to try and put people in, right? So this is just authors that I love, that I've read multiple books from, that I can recommend wholeheartedly, knowing that I really like their writing style. It works well for me. If you like my book recommendations, it will probably work well for you as well, or at least some of them will. And I hope that either this is a help to you as you get started, or you just find another author that you love. So this is really just about trying to get more people to read these specific authors because I read them and love them specifically. All right, the first one is Cole McCade. I am reading his Criminal Intentions series. He is a Black, Asian, Indigenous author who I believe his own voices for male romance, but I'm not 100% on his queer identity. Not really my business. And this is a detective slow burn. Now, I would normally be immediately like, no on the slow burn, but it's so good. It's a long series. It's written like the episodes of Crime Show. The writing really works for me. I love the pacing. I am loving everything about this. Next I have Christina C Jones. She writes Black love exclusively. That means that all the members of the couple are Black, and typically all the people in her books are Black. Usually you don't really interact with white people very much. She does have different books that have other representations, but you know you're getting Black love when you pick up any of her books. She's really funny. Her character work is impeccable. Her dialogue, amazing. If you like those aspects of books, you're probably gonna love her writing. Next is Alexandria House, my first ever Black love author. So funny, so steamy. I cannot begin to tell you how steamy her books are. She writes celebrity romances in a way that I actually like because I don't like celebrity romances. And all of her books, I believe, are contemporary Black love. Next I have Chace Verity. They are a queer Canadian non-binary author who writes a wide range of queer, and I believe usually in Canada, often paranormal, some fantasy, but specifically queer, funny, paranormal, cozy. You're not gonna be stressed out reading their books. Next I have Alexandra Warren. She knows her sport, so if you want Black love books that are written by a sports fan featuring sports players, she just does it really well. Also, she has this billionaire romance that if you don't typically love that trope, I think would be a great one to try. Next I have Jessica Gadziala. She writes a wide range of mental health and chronic illness and things like that. She really does a good job of writing anxiety and those things that really can affect your life but often are maybe invisible to the eye and aren't acknowledged. I have Katee Robert, another queer author. All of her books are incredibly queer, and she is obviously very popular, but I think that she has good ethics, good morals. She talks a lot about her own journey, and I appreciate it. Next I have Nikki Clarke. This is Black Paranormal. She writes aliens, she writes shifters, she writes vampires. I'm a fan. Then I have Cate C someone who writes quite a bit of different disability and mental health and things like that. Again, I am just always interested to see what she ends up writing about. It's been quite the array of things. Then I have Jackie Lau. This is a, I believe, Chinese-Canadian romance author. Sweet, cozy, feel good. She writes tropes like friends to lovers and brother's best friend that I typically don't like, but I really do like her version of it. Her books are usually low angst, and I appreciate that she doesn't pretend like racism and homophobia and stuff don't exist in her universe, but at the same time, you are going to be reading her books and feeling good. And I have Katrina Jackson. This is a queer Black woman. She writes a lot of Black love and interracial. She writes different queer characters. She writes sapphic. Big fan. She's a genius. Swear to God, she's a professor. She's a Black historian, and honestly, like, you want to talk about one of the most qualified people, it's her. Then I have Tasha L Harrison. This is a Black woman who does a lot for other indie authors. She does a lot to help them, and I really admire her as a person. I really admire her ethics, her advice, and I have really enjoyed her books. Then I have Rilzy Adams. She is a Black woman who lives in the Caribbean. She's actually a lawyer, and she has been dealing with a lot of chronic pain. I don't know. I haven't read the books. Pretty sure she has a book that represents that, but I could be wrong. I haven't read it. She wrote one of my all-time favorite friends to lovers. My tropes that I love and her tropes that she loves don't really line up very well, but I do really enjoy her writing. And I have B Love. This is another Black woman author who does a lot for other authors. She has like she has something where she publishes Black authors. She does a very interesting mix of spiritual and criminal elements. Another one that I've just read a lot of her books and enjoyed them. Then I have Courtney Milan. This you probably know Courtney Milan. She was like a Supreme Court Justice Clerk or something like that. She's a genius. Again, she's neurodivergent. She is Asian American. I believe Chinese, but I don't know that for a fact. She writes a lot of historical, and I've enjoyed the books that I've picked up. Then I have R.M. Virtues. This is a Black trans man who writes queer, he writes disabled, he writes BIPOC, a wide range of identities. He's Indigenous, he's Afro, Latinx, and I particularly like the paranormal, but if you don't, he does have the Greek gods retellings that are also quite interesting with trans characters specifically in the first book. So. And I have Kimberly Lemming. If you want diverse fantasy that is feel good and a little bit ridiculous and funny, she's going to give it to you. Again, she writes a wide range of identities within her book, and I appreciate that. Then I have Dria Andersen. She writes, I believe, exclusively Black love paranormal, feel good, cozy, low angst, low conflict. Yeah, just if you want a warm hug, paranormal book, an excellent place to start. Then I have Evie Mitchell. I have only read one Evie Mitchell book, and I didn't absolutely love it, but I do really love her as a person. I know a ton of friends who have read many of her books and loved it. Her books feature different characters in the disabled community. She's really open about her ethics and pouring back into that community, and the importance of not feeling like you have the right to tell every story and making sure you get feedback and all of the things. Just really enjoy her. I believe she's an Australian author. So even though I've only read one, I do intend on reading more, specifically maybe in the dystopian series. Then I have Allura Anaya series. This is a author that I also have only read one book from. She is a Latinx author, someone who really has taken a lot of time to stand against racism and things in the community, and you know, takes a lot of her time and effort being an advocate. Big fan of her as a person. I have followed her for literally years. She does like to rip your heart out, but fantasy, paranormal, she writes a lot of white shoes. Then I have Leesha McCoy. This is another Black paranormal. The series that I have read by her, a little bit wild and crazy, but I really liked her writing style. I know other people have read quite a few of her books, and I intend on reading more, even though I have read a whole series by her. Then I have Freydis Moon. This is a queer Latinx author who is non-binary, I believe, writes a lot of trans characters, non-binary characters. The writing is really interesting. I don't think it's going to be for everyone. It's kind of poetic and spiritual in a way, but if you want queer paranormal, I'm enjoying their work. Anna Wong is an Asian American, I believe. She writes alpha contemporary romance. I've only read one book. I do want to read more. I have quite a few friends who have read all of her books. She does tend to have third act breakups that don't really work for me, but that doesn't mean that I don't want to read them. Then I have Carmen Lee, again a queer Black author, writes a wide range of queer identities in her books. Big fan, cozy, small town. I wouldn't necessarily say low angst, they're actually pretty slow burn, but they're not very conflict filled, so even though you are seeing them kind of pine after each other, it's in a natural progression, and I enjoy that. Then I have Iris Foxglove, another author I've only read one book from, but loved them. It is a writing duo. One is non-binary and one I believe is a woman, and they write queer paranormal, and it's often BDSM and polyamorous and all sorts of things. The one I read had so many different things in it, like it was polyamorous, BDSM, fantasy, chronically ill witch, happy giant who was like a masochist, and the little witch wife was a sadist, and then they rescue this toy maker who is neurodivergent and has lived on his own and doesn't think that anybody can love him because of the way that he was treated, and he is also a dom, and the power dynamic, all of it was so good. So big fan, even though I've only read one. And lastly for this list, I have Asia Monique, who writes often, I believe, contemporary, but what I have read has been Black Mafia, and I know that she specifically said all of the main characters will be Black, so the side couples and stuff that you see that are not two Black people, they won't be getting their own books. You'll see them play out on the page. This series is so interesting to me because even though you do get a lot of mafia and you do get a lot of other criminal organizations and things like that for Black books, I haven't seen anyone doing it quite like this, and that they have the different mafias and then they have different like Black members of the mafias. So you have Afro-Italian, Afro-Russian, you've got Black people in the Yakuza, and they're different origin stories. You know, one had a white passing grandma, one was adopted, one was, you know, the mistress was Black, like lots of different things, and how they didn't really fit within those mafia organizations, so they kind of broke away and made their own. And I am just like very into it. I really like her main characters. They don't need anyone to save them. They bring their own things to the table, and the men kind of have to match their energy. They have to be good enough to match them, and I really like that. So that is just kind of a random list of different authors that I really enjoy their work, and they are diverse in a wide range. They're all romance authors. If you have a specific request, I probably do know an author who writes that, so feel free to either give recommendations or ask for recommendations in the comments. I hope that this is helpful and showed you somebody that you haven't read yet or wasn't already on your TBR. And yeah, I hope it was helpful. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.